What's happening, people? It's your girl Mina. Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. Congratulations, guys. W's in the chat. Congratulations to Alice for hitting 100k, not one but two channels. That is a serious achievement. That's two plaques under her belt. Alice, how you doing? Because we were just talking about United transfer window, but before we talk about that, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for the intro. Thanks for that. I mean, two plaques. That's pretty crazy. We've got to get Minna to a plaque, guys. So make sure you subscribe to her if you're watching. But I'm actually doing really good, apart from Man United. But that's Man United. We're used to it.
It's crazy because it's off season. You would think that we wouldn't feel some type of way about United, but somehow, guys, some way, United always find themselves being main character in a lot of our lives and causing us to overthink or overstress. The last couple of days have been a little bit of a whirlwind because not much has happened with the Brian and Mbeumo stuff, but obviously the news came out about Man United looking at Ollie Watkins as a striker. So if you guys are keeping track, because I am, we've gone from Gyökeres to Osimhen. Mateta was a conversation in there as well, and now Ollie Watkins looks like he's a potential target for Manchester United. Do you have any reservations about that, or are you kind of intrigued about that possible move?
I like Ollie Watkins, but for the right price, if that makes sense. Like if it's 60 million, I'm a bit like, come on, he's turning 30. But a lot of people I feel like are quite negative about it. But if we're seeing Ollie Watkins for 45 million and Ekitike for 85 million, I'm thinking, look at how young strikers have done at Man United and look at how old strikers have done at Man United. Like Ollie Watkins is never going to be on the same level as Zlatan, Cavani, Ronaldo. But we signed them in their 30s. They came in instant impact. We need instant impact. Højlund got 4 goals last season, and people talking about Watkins having a bad season. He got 16 goals last season. Does he miss chances? Yes. Is there better strikers out there than Watkins? Yes. Like if I had it my way, we'd be getting Victor Osimhen, but we're not getting Victor Osimhen if we're being realistic. And there's Gyökeres, there's Ekitike, there's Watkins on the market right now. There's maybe rogue options like Gonçalo Ramos, but that's not necessarily the most convincing. It's like if Gyökeres goes to Arsenal, it's Ekitike and it's Watkins. I think Ekitike could work really well in the front three of Mbeumo and Cunha. I think it could work really well. But United aren't in a position to risk 85 million on a striker, in my opinion. I think if you can get Watkins for 45 million, it kind of makes sense. He's proven Premier League, and we can use those leftover funds to get a midfielder. Because I still think front three is brilliant, but I would like a midfielder. I would like a goalkeeper. That's going to depend on Nana.
Yeah.
And for me, I really wanted us to get Aït-Nouri because obviously we know that Dorgu can always play right wing back, Aït-Nouri and Dorgu left wing back, Amandillo right wing back. It's good options because I think with losing Lindelof and Evans, Mazraoui has to be seen as a permanent centre back now. So I would have liked that.
I think the only thing that I have my reservations about with the transfer window right now is just how slow United are moving. Is making me think that they might actually not be able to get that many players in. I agree with the sentiment that United need a striker. United definitely need a midfielder. And a lot of those for me are starting players, not squad players. Please, guys, don't get sucked into the idea that if United sign a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old for our academy, that counts as a new signing. That doesn't count as a new signing because United need first team starters. Now, with the fact that it's been exactly a month, guys, as of recording today, guys, it's been a month since the Brian and Mbeumo news came out about him choosing Manchester United. And it don't feel like Man United are edging any closer to actually getting that deal done. So if United enter pre-season with just Cunha in the door and maybe Mbeumo comes in a little bit later, maybe before the America pre-season tour, it just makes me wonder what's the likelihood United could get another 2 or 3 signings in. When you look around the Premier League, just look at a lot of other clubs. For example, newly promoted clubs. Yes, I know they've got a lot more money in terms of getting promoted, and they have a lot more assets available in terms of being able to sell players. But Sunderland have been moving quickly. Burnley have been moving, like they're on like their 4th or 5th signing so far. And of course, they have to strengthen to be on par with Premier League teams. But I just think that Manchester United's negligence in this transfer window is really on show, because if we have come off the back of the worst Premier League campaign ever, you know, losing in a cup final, the manager has publicly slated the entire squad, not just individual players. He's publicly said that these players are not good enough to play my type of football. You know, taking into consideration everything that's happened in the last 6 months, you would have thought United would be acting with a sense of urgency in the summer transfer window. But it seems like let's get one deal done, then we move on to the next one rather than working on things simultaneously. That is the only reason why I'm a bit skeptical at the prospect of United, getting Mbeumo done, then getting a striker done, then getting a midfielder done. In terms of Ollie Watkins, I like Ollie Watkins. The guy scored double-digit goals, and I think in his last 6 or 7 seasons in a row. I don't think he hasn't had a season, even before he joined Villa, of him not scoring double digits in the Premier League. So that already for me is a tick. The bar is in hell when you make Højlund or maybe even Joshua Zirkzee as a 9. When you make them the bar, anybody can kind of overachieve past them. But I'm just wondering about longevity. Like, do you feel United should be going for players for the long term? And obviously, we've seen how that works out with young players. I think it's about finding the right balance. You can find a young talent that's experienced that you can also use for the long term, because the last time Manchester United, in my opinion, brought a striker where they were thinking about long term, I think it was Lukaku. I think Cavani was a stopgap striker. I think Ibrahimovic was. I think Ronaldo was. But I think Lukaku was a striker they genuinely wanted to build around, who was young at the time and had a lot of experience. But you don't really find those kind of strikers in the market anymore. And everybody's being priced at 100 million plus. Like, that's the norm.
The striker market is a joke right now. Like, honestly, it's so bad. And then going back to what you were saying, considering we finished 15th last season, we're not moving like we finished 15th. We're moving like we finished 5th, and we're calm and it's okay. Pre-season's on Monday, 1 signing in the door, 0 out. Striker was priority. That's not happened. I said, look, if we get Cunha and Mbeumo in for pre-season tour, not having a striker for pre-season tour isn't the end of the world, because you've got at least 2 proven scorers in, and it takes that. I guess it gives us a better bargaining position in terms of getting a striker as well, because everyone knows we're desperate for a striker. But if we go to Villa and say, well, look, we've got Mbeumo and Cunha, we're not desperate for a striker, we're not going to pay 60 million for Watkins, you can get the price down. But I agree with what you mean. Like, Watkins isn't a long-term solution. It's a stopgap. It's someone, and that's why for me it's for the right price. You could get him for 40, 45 million. I'm open to it when you look at the value in the market. A stopgap to get us across the next 2 seasons, because it's all about balance, as you said. I want young players for the future, but I want players that are perfect now, and I want players that might have that experience, might be in their prime. And I remember when we brought in Omar Barada a good year and a bit ago, and we were looking at his City interviews and how he operates at City. And he said at City it's about getting the right balance. They want younger players that suit what they want to do and suit how they want to play. But they also want some experienced players ready now. So it's a good environment for the younger players to settle in. Players in their prime, entering the prime. It's all about a mix. And I think, INEOS definitely had this focus on younger players when they first got in the door. It was very clear. But I think INEOS have now woken up to, okay, maybe we need a bit more experience. We look at Dorgu, very young, very raw. People have given him a bit of stick this season, which I think is a little unfair. I can see the good attributes.
It's a bit over the top with Patrick Dorgu. I think people are just keen for him not to succeed, because I think a lot of people just had other preferences. But just quickly on your point about Barada, it's a very interesting one. I also think the environment and the goals of the club is equally as important. I think at City, 100%, their goal is to win. And I'm not saying United's goal is not to win, but City are the kind of team where even in a year where we've laughed at them, they've gone out and spent 300 million in multiple in back-to-back windows, a total of 300 million. And everyone's gonna laugh about the fact they got knocked out of the Club World Cup by Al Hilal, but financially that they pocketed 50 million. So who's really laughing? Whereas on the flip side, I think Omar Barada at United, he's probably come in with Ratcliffe, etc., who are just trying to steady the ship, however that may be, rather than winning now. So bringing in talents now to win, I actually think the financial goals of Manchester United are to bring in all these, because I don't know if you realize, but we are linked to and signing so many young talents across different academies in England and in Europe. And I don't see any of these players eventually becoming players for the first team. I actually think this is all part of INEOS's plan of buying and persuading young kids to join Man United Academy to sell them. Yeah, the Chelsea way. The Chelsea way is, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but when you have finished 50th, when you have had multiple targets and transfer targets, etc., I think you should be moving with a sense of urgency. Barada said in an interview, I think it was with the United We Stand Zine, Van Zine by Andy Mitten. He said in an interview that United will not be forced into like a bidding war, or they won't be forced into paying, whatever a club is requesting if they feel like it's above the limit of what they've budgeted for that player and how much they value at that player. But they will look like clowns when it comes out that reportedly United are probably going to pay what Brentford wanted, and apparently it's in the region of 70 million for the third bid, which is being reported that they're preparing for that third bid. So the way that I see it is, if you were going to end up paying that 70 million, whether it's the minor details and the finer details like the add-ons and how achievable they are, you could have got it done a lot more quicker than 4 weeks. We're going to enter the 5th week soon.
100%. And the way I look at it is, if you haven't got an alternative that you're like, we can get them, this is a good alternative, this is affordable alternative, you just got to hurry up and pay up a little bit. Like Semenyo signed the new deal. He was considered the alternative. He would be more expensive, and he's not better than Mbeumo in my opinion.
No.
Other alternatives were Dibbling. That's another young player. We don't need that. We need proven goals. With Branthwaite, there was alternatives there. Branthwaite, we walked away. They asked for crazy money. There's alternatives there, and I think Euro is the better player. And we've got a little bit of luck in the sense of like Euro was pushed towards coming to us, but walking away from Branthwaite and getting Euro, I'm all for not overpaying. But when they're asking for 65 million for Mbeumo, and we're seeing, for me, originally it was 55 million, and it's frustrating that it's gone from 55 million to 60 million to 62 million to 65 million to now 70 million. It's frustrating. They're taking the mick. Would City have got a deal done for 60 million by now? Probably. There's probably an element of Man United tax. But also I look at it and I go, if I'm Brentford and I see João Pedro going for 55, 60 million, including add-ons, I see 50 million bids being rejected for Elanga. Gittins 55 million. Like the level between Gittins and Mbeumo last season was big. Gittins' future.
But that's what I'm saying. I feel like the transfer window, that's why with price tags sometimes, I know this might sound stupid, but I don't really dwell on it that much because I know how inflated the transfer market has become, where it's become common now that every summer there's at least one player going for 100 million. Like back when Ronaldo went for 80 million to Real Madrid, I remember thinking at the time, who's going to be 100 million? Like, how long is it going to take? Now it's normal. At least every summer transfer window, there is going to be a player that goes for 100 million. And I think as the seasons go on, it's going to increase, where there's going to be multiple players that are going for 100 million pounds or euros, whatever you guys, whatever currency you want to go off. And I totally agree with you. You look at the market and, Semenyo being 70 million, Gittins, João Pedro. I'm seeing Garnacho, we're pricing him at 70 million. I kind of get why Brentford are waiting out for what it is they exactly want. But I think it's just underwhelming for me on Manchester United side. And even on the other side of it, Man United are underwhelming with kind of getting people out of the door as well.
The outs is driving me crazy. Like, I know that obviously it's harder until you get to July, but I'm thinking like right now we need outs because we can do Mbeumo, we can do Cunha, but to do a midfielder, to do a striker, to do a goalkeeper, we need outs. Right now, they've already come out and said, Malacia coming out of here is going to be difficult. I mean, I feel like it could be a Donny van der Beek deal where we're just letting him go for peanuts because
what's sad though with Malacia, like Donny van der Beek, I didn't ever think he was good enough for Manchester United, but Malacia, I actually wanted him before he joined United. I just think it's that injury that has just turned his career upside down for him, and he might be better off just going back to the Dutch league. I think if United can find a deal for him, I saw someone bring up a tweet from last year when Donny van der Beek left, and United sold him for 500k with 14 million add-ons. I ain't never seen a transfer like that in my life. But you can just tell United needed to get him out, and it might be one of those situations with Malacia as well.
That's what I'm thinking, because I liked Malacia in his first season. He was really good. I remember the big games like City,
Liverpool,
Arsenal, Liverpool. He was good, and there was a player there in Malacia, and the injury did him. And also, he doesn't suit a back five. Like he's always going to be a back four player. So that's one that we're just going to have to let him go for peanuts. I don't think he's on big wages. I think he wants game time. I think that will be easier, even though there's a lack of suitors. Onana is very difficult to move on unless Saudi come in, and that doesn't look the case. It's a bit like Casemiro last summer. INEOS were open to selling Casemiro last summer. Saudi didn't come in. There was Onana's quite financially difficult to move on. The situation is the four attackers: Anthony, Sancho, Garnacho, Rashford. The dream world is we get 100 million for Garnacho and Rashford in pure profit, but Barcelona, they're not going to pay up for Rashford. They only want a loan. They want Nico Williams. This is the problem. I think Marcus Rashford for 40 million, if he took a wage cut, is good business when you look at the market.
That's the thing is I think when it's been publicly reported, obviously it hasn't come from Rashford's mouth, but it's been publicly reported that he's only willing to take a pay cut if he goes to Barcelona. I think that might put a lot of other clubs off, because they might just turn around and be like, okay, he's willing. Clearly, Barcelona is his preferred destination, and he'll do anything to get there. And it's the same with Jadon Sancho. Fenerbahce have moved on from him. They're looking at John Duran instead. It's reported that he's, in talks with Juve, but Juve have other targets that they're going for. The same with Napoli. The same with pretty much every team that has been linked to him is the financial part. And I'm in two parts about the Jadon Sancho thing. I am annoyed about the fact that it's tough to offload him, but I don't think you can be annoyed with anyone but Manchester United, because yes, with footballers, they are entitled contractually to exactly what they have been given by the football club. United should never have given Jadon Sancho that salary. Those wages should have never gone to a young prodigy that was playing well in Germany and was destined to be an England wonder kid. That should never have been the case. So I am annoyed at Sancho not willing to take a pay cut. But at the end of the day, he's entitled to that because Man United put the ball in his court. And it might be one of those situations. I said it the other day. He might just run down his contract till summer and just leave on a free.
I think he could. Like, the thing that annoys me with Sancho is it's Man United's fault for giving him the money, but he wanted to leave. He's forced 2 loan moves. He refused to apologise to Ten Hag. He'd rather not play for us for 4 months than apologise to Ten Hag. Ten Hag gave him, the season before, Ten Hag gave him 4 months off, and we all supported him on that. He's forced 2 loan moves, and you're talking freedom at Chelsea, and you finally got an option to go to Chelsea, and you won't take a wage cut. And I feel like if we'd have forced Sancho out, and he wasn't taking a wage cut, I'd be like, fair play. We gave him those ridiculous wages. We forced him out. He wanted to play for us. He did nothing wrong. Fair play. We tried to get rid of Phil Jones on high wages, but he was always injured and all of that. And like even Maguire, when he didn't want to go to West Ham, it's like, well, we gave Maguire those wages. We gave Phil Jones those wages. With Sancho, it's completely our fault for giving him those wages. And we can only really blame Man United. But it's that frustration when he's forced 2 loan moves. It's kind of like, oh, come on now. Like, who's advising you? Because you're not, like, Chelsea offered him good money. He would have been like their 3rd or 4th top earner or something like that, apparently.
But even that would have been like half of what he's earning at United. And he's probably thinking in his head, unfortunately, he's thinking, I'm never going to make this salary again in my life in football. Like, my next club that I join on a permanent basis, he's never going to make that. And the worst thing is that the fact that he's had 2 loan spells that have been reasonable loan spells that should have been loan spells that could get him a permanent move, but every time it's because of the wage situation that holds it back. So I do think both. I think the club got a part to play in it, but also he does too, because I'm looking at the flip side and I'm looking at Anthony, who's dying to go to Betis. He's ready to play for them practically for free, like not literally, guys, but he's practically ready to take a pay cut, to take a big pay cut so that he can go, because he just wants to play football, and that's because he's found an environment that he flourishes in. Probably a system and a league that he probably feels more comfortable with, and also because outside of Manchester United, the eyes are not on you as sharp as maybe it would be when you're playing with a Manchester United shirt. And that's why I look at Anthony and I think, okay, this is a guy who clearly just wants to play football. The World Cup is coming up next summer. He probably wants to be in the Brazilian team as well. He might not start, but he wants to be probably in that squad. And there's a spot for him if he can play well. I'm sure Ancelotti will call him up. But that, I feel sorry for Anthony, because it's the fact that Real Betis can't afford to pay what United want. It's not that they don't want him, and it's not that he doesn't want to go there. This time it's a different situation from maybe the Sanchos and the Rashfords. It's the fact that Real Betis don't really spend 30-40 million on players, and they really want to buy him, and they're trying to agree something with Manchester United that works in their favor. I think if anybody leaves first out of the 4 attackers that you mentioned, I think it could be Anthony. Like, everything for me points to Anthony being the first player to go. But even then, that doesn't really leave Man United in a better situation. It leaves them one man light in the front line, with absolutely no kind of confirmation of what's happening with the striker situation or Mbeumo. Is there any part of you that thinks the Mbeumo deal could collapse? Because that United View clip will just go viral again.
Oh my. It better not collapse. I don't think it will collapse, because who's, like, in the sense of, I think United would just pay up unless they had an alternative in their heads. I feel like right now Semenyo's off the market. Dibling's just not it. we're not exactly going to go for a Langer. Like
Yeah,
now,
Eze is probably going to Arsenal, maybe.
Arsenal. Kudus would probably be the most sensible alternative.
He's linked to Spurs as well.
Spurs. I mean, we could probably beat Spurs to him, but again, he's not had the best season. Good player, but he's not come off the best season, and apparently there's attitude issues, and that could be a red flag. I just think right now we're too far into Mbeumo. I think it gets done. I think when the player wants to move, when Brentford probably deep down want the money to work on their new manager and rebuilding the squad, and there's that desperation, we finish 15th, it has to happen. But this is Manchester United. If this is Manchester City, you know they get it done. But this is Manchester United. We finished 15th. This isn't even a bad price. Like, ideally, 55 million would have been ideal. That was the original price tag. It's now 65 million. But as we said earlier, you look at the market, you look at the money wingers are going for, just get it done, hurry up, put the third bid in. The player wants to move. There's potential it falls through, but I think it happens. I think it happens right now. I'm more concerned about the outs, like as we touched upon. Like, I think Anthony will go. I think we will get offers for Garnacho, because if you're looking at the winger market right now, you know, I think Gittins is a better talent than Garnacho and better attitude. But Gittins, the last 6 months of the season for Dortmund under the new manager was like, what he couldn't even get the team.
Yeah, I think if you go off of what Garnacho has done in the last 3 seasons and then compare that to Gittins, obviously I think their valuation differs because of that. In terms of, it's always tough for me to kind of decide who is the better potential, because I think it's hard. I don't think people should go off of potential. I think you should go off of what's in your face right now. But in terms of the winger market, I'm thinking of wingers that are available. I mean, Luis Diaz has been told he's apparently staying at Liverpool, but I think Bayern Munich wanted him, and Barcelona. I feel like the only person that could be maybe on the move is Rodrigo at Real Madrid. He could leave. I thought he'd go to Arsenal, but if Arsenal are looking around to Eze, etc., I don't know how likely that is. But in terms of, a young talent, over 100 appearances, senior level, double-digit GA back-to-back seasons, has experience at a young age. I think Garnacho ticks a lot of boxes for clubs, but then it's the bag. I think it's the baggage that comes with him, the disciplinary baggage, if you want to call it that. And I don't know if some clubs are willing to take that risk on now. I don't know how you feel about how do you feel about Ruben Amarin? Like, how you feel like going into next season. Obviously, it's difficult to predict because he doesn't have his final puzzle put together yet. There's still ins and outs to occur. But are you worried? Are you confident? Are you indifferent?
It's a bit of a middle ground, to be honest, because I'm not fully convinced. We can't be. We finished 15th. He mismanaged the Europa League final. There's no doubt in my mind about it. And look, I have two mindsets, because I'm like, okay, we need a dressing room reset. We need a culture reset. If that's getting Garnacho out, Rashford out, resetting the culture, that is what we need. Cool. Back the manager over the players. We have to do that. And look, Garnacho shouldn't have said what he said in the interview. Like, I get why Garnacho said it, because I was kind of thinking, you know what, Mason Mount should have been hooked at halftime. It wasn't. Yeah. And Garnacho's maybe directness could have been better. But you're not Cristiano Ronaldo. You're a 20-year-old kid. You can't say that. It's frustration. It's the emotion. And when we see the amount of times he's liked stuff on Instagram, and it just all adds up, those little things with Garnacho. So I can understand why Ruben Amarin was mad. It's annoyed that it's gone so public that he was mad and told Garnacho he better hope and pray he finds a new club, because that doesn't give us a good negotiating position. But my worry with Ruben Amarin is I'm not fully convinced by what I've seen going forward, because we don't look very convincing going forward. Obviously, he hasn't had his players in, but I think he could have done better last season with the squad that he had. Obviously, it didn't help that you don't replace Rashford and Anthony when they go out on loan. Ahmad gets injured. You're literally left with Xerxes, who was our best player. Then he got injured in attack. And then you're literally left with Garnacho and Højlund. And Højlund just looks so out of it right now. It's actually quite concerning. It obviously doesn't help. And I think if Mbeumo and Cunha come in and Watkins come in, I think that could make a massive difference, because there was some games where we weren't that bad, like the 0-0 versus City, or even the 1-0 loss to Forest, but we just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. It wasn't the football I want to see, but it was like, actually on another day, we could have got 8-9 more points, had we had better attackers. But it is the fact that, like, if Ruben Amarin goes wrong and we're selling Rashford and Garnacho, which are the big two for me that I think we'd miss the most, Sancho and Anthony in one window, that's 4 wingers in one window. And then we go back to a manager that wants 4-3-3 direct wingers, and we've sold Garnacho for, let's say, I don't know, £55 million. will be like, obviously, I get why he has to go because of the attitude issues. But we'd be saying we sold Garnacho and Rashford, and they would be perfect under, I don't know, whoever replaces Amarin. That's the concern. But my biggest concern is also Kobbie Mainoo, because I think he, is a generational talent. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Garnacho. We saw it last season under Ten Hag. I want any manager that came into Manchester United that INEOS brought in, I wanted Kobbie Mainoo to be the guy that would be key to that plan. And the question is, can he play in the 10? Can he play in the midfield too? There's questions about our young talent and what can Amarin do? Because it seems like to make it work under Amarin, we've got to spend a lot of money, tear up the squad, bring a lot of players in, take a lot of players out, which is cool, fine. But when United were talking about having all these financial issues, could there have been a manager like Liverpool found with Arne Slot that actually could have just get the best out of the players, profile them better, and not need 200, 300 million? That's my concern.
You know, that concern that you mentioned, it kind of explains to me everything that happened with Dan Ashworth, because I think it was reported that Dan Ashworth had these concerns, and the reason why he got sacked was because he couldn't give a definite answer to kind of Ratcliffe whenever Ratcliffe wanted a definite answer. But I think the fact that Dan Ashworth identified that and was scapegoated, because Barada, I think what's the phrase, is too many cooks in the kitchen. Barada, Ashworth, there's so many people making decisions, and Ratcliffe just wanted a kind of direct answer regarding the managerial situation. And I 100% agree. I'm concerned about Kobbie. I've said this time and time again, when United haven't produced prolific, consistent players in the last decade from the academy, it's really only been Rashford. I would put Greenwood in there, I'll put McTominay in there, and then I'll put Kobbie Mainoo in there. And in terms of midfield profiles, Man United haven't produced anybody like Kobbie Mainoo in the academy in the last decade, and we have not been prolific in, you know, bringing in multiple players into our academy. We always kind of bring a player, you know, the last couple of months they train with the first team, then they go out on loan. I'm talking, you know, Angel Gomez, I'm talking about Zidane Iqbal, I'm talking about Ethan Laird, I'm talking about Alvaro Fernandez, just in recent years. So for me, the trajectory that Kobbie has had in terms of the fact that in the space of 12 months of his career, he went from being a kind of academy kid that was training with the first team to then starting the new season on pre-season tour with Manchester United, getting injured, coming back, and then in the space of 9 months became Man United and England's most important player. I think that says a lot. And I am very skeptical on the way that Amarim is kind of trying to shoehorn him in. And I've always been under this notion, even like with watching Xabi Alonso with Real Madrid right now, I've always been under this impression that managers can have their fingerprints on the team without it being very rigid. I think I criticized Eric Ten Hag for this, when Eric Ten Hag was very stern on the 3-1-6 kind of football and vacating the midfield. And I always said, you know, you can have a style of play, but that doesn't mean that the style of play has to be very rigid. Whereas I think a system is very rigid. It's very much like, this is how we're going to do things. You know, if you don't fit in, we're going to get rid of you. And I would be very upset if Manchester United sold Kobbie Mainoo. Honestly, I would be very, very upset if United sold Kobbie Mainoo. And I just look at the midfield right now, and I don't like this two-man midfield. I've said this all the time. I think Man United get overrun, especially when it's like one midfielder plays more advanced than the other. So essentially, what is the difference between Eric Ten Hag and his one midfielder and Amarim's one midfielder? There's not really much of a difference in that for me. So I am very curious to see how the season starts for Manchester United, especially with like those first 5 opening games. We've got Burnley, we've got Fulham, we've got we've got City, we've got Arsenal, like Chelsea. I think it is. I think that's the first 5 opening games for United. I think the first 3 games will tell me enough about Ruben Amarin and the squad than 12 months. I won't need 12 months to know how United's season is going to go. And I've seen a lot of people like already saying Amarim's not going to make it past Christmas. He's not going to make it till November. And if that is the case, yeah, it's a failing on Amarim's part. But I think all eyes should be on INEOS, because they were the ones that pulled the trigger on Eric Ten Hag. They were the one that actually gave Eric Ten Hag the new contract, then sacked him after a couple of months and brought in Ruben Amarin. So obviously we're talking about ifs and buts right now, but it could happen. And I hope, you know, this summer, I always said this summer transfer window would be the one for me to judge INEOS, because last summer it was their first transfer window. At this time around, they've been here for over 18 months. You know, they've been running Manchester United for nearly 18 months. So they should be a lot more familiar with the dealings of the club, the players, the situation, the needs of the manager, etc. They should be more familiar with that. And I can't lie, they're failing my test, guys. They're failing the test
Yeah.
right now. But just quickly before we wrap it up, transfer window, how many players do you think United sign before the preseason tour? And then how many do you think we'll have by the end of the summer transfer window?
I think it will be just Mbeumo and Cunha for preseason tour. I think we will get Mbeumo. I think we will sign a striker, probably August, knowing us. I think we will sign a midfielder. And then I think there'll be 4 proper signings. And then I think we'll get like a fifth signing, but it'll be like a backup keeper or like another young player that's, someone that's like less than 10 million.
Yeah.
I think 4 proper, 1 small. I'm not going to count like Diego Leon, Sekou Kone type signings. I thought we'll make a few of those as well.
Yeah, I think we'll have Mbeumo in. I'm hoping for preseason. And I think we have 2 other signings in the summer transfer window, either squad players or starters. I think we'll have a striker. I just don't see us signing a midfielder. I just think United are not going to. I just don't think, like, if you look at it right now, we've been barely linked to midfielders. Like,
I know.
It's been clear that we're looking for strikers. It's been clear that we're looking for attackers, but the midfield part has been very quiet. But listen, guys, make sure you guys hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Alice, listen, let them know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, big up, guys. Make sure you subscribe to Minna if you haven't already. Yeah, just search in Alice Talks Football, Alice Talks Footy across TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter for all United content. If you want non-United content, my second channel, Aquila Football, covers like the Big Six and a few other stuff. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'll link all the socials down below, guys. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe, and hopefully we will be back soon and we'll have better stuff to talk about and it'll be a bit more positive. You guys know what it is, guys. We're out. Peace.